In this video, we're going to talk about how to use the Boulder Data Hub's City of Boulder Voters Database to generate both mailing lists and walk lists. A mailing list would be a spreadsheet that the database will provide that has the addresses of voters that you would want to reach out to. You could then use that spreadsheet, send it to a mailing provider for doing bulk mails. A walk list is a list tailored typically around a precinct of the voters that you want to reach out to that you're going to go walk a neighborhood using. If we open up the help section, we have a description then about these mailing list link and walk list link and what they do. So we have a couple of preset links that pre-populate the form and configure the form for generating a mailing list or generating a walk list. So first we'll look at how to use this to generate a mailing list. There's a description about what that preset does. And basically what it does is it sets only one search criteria, that is that it's an active voter. But it also selects then under display the fields that we want to go look at in the display. So we actually want to have the name and then the mailing address. Now it's important to note that the Boulder County actually tracks potentially three different addresses for every voter. There is the registration address, which is the address that we typically are searching on, that has address, street name, city, and which is of course Boulder, state, and whatnot. And so that's the address out in Boulder where the person is registered as, where they are in the particular precinct for. There's also a mailing address. Now, for many voters, they only have the one address, which is the registration address. But for some voters, they might have a P.O. box, which is where they want to get their ballots sent to, or they might even be out of state or even somewhere out of country. And we use the mailing address fields to generate a mailing list. I forgot the other thing that this specifies, which is important to note, is this mailing country. Okay, there's perhaps 1,000 or more voters that have their mailing addresses out of the country. In that case, they would have a country specified, for example, France, Angola, Vietnam. In the United States, there is no country specified. The mailing list preset enters underscore blank underscore, as we see here, to search for an empty country. That is to search for just mailing addresses in the United States. We configure it that way because we're thinking that if you do a bulk mailing, your bulk mail provider probably doesn't want to mail to like France, for example. Okay. The last thing that this preset does is it specifies the set of unique fields to filter out the results in. The thinking here is that there can be multiple voters at a particular address, and you might not, there might be 4 registered voters, two parents and 2 kids, for example. And you might not actually want to do a mailing to all 4 voters at the same address. You might just want to have a mailing to a single address. And that's why we preset these. So now the results there'll be a secondary filter on the results other than the search criteria to only show those unique values. So that's what this mailing list link provides. What it doesn't provide, though, is to specify other fields on how to search for voters. And in particular, and that's where it really comes down to the user to define the kind of voters that they want to reach out to. But let's say we want to say, I'm going to look for people who voted in 2020, and most voters did. But I want to look for really active voters who have voted every time in the last 3 off-year elections. I can specify those fields and then do a search. Of course, we have search results, and we can specify more results. The reason why we don't have 500 listed is because of that uniqueness. So there actually are are, 180 some folks that live at the same addresses as shown here. Now, that doesn't help us to understand just how many voters that search criteria would really get to. And that's where we can use this summary fields, which we looked at in a prior video. I'm just going to summarize those search results based on party. As we see now, those search results resulted in 17,000 potential voters that we might want to reach out to. If we're happy with those search results, that we think, yeah, those are the folks we want to reach out to, we can go back here. We want to turn off that by command clicking on a Mac or however you do it on a Windows. And then we'll just say search again, and we'll double check and say, yeah, those are the fields we want to have, the mailing addresses and the names. And now under view as, instead of viewing as a table or a map, we can view it as a CSV file, and we'll bump up the count to 20,000. So normally, if you're just viewing at a table, you wouldn't want to have 20,000 results. It'd be a very large web page. But a CSV file also stands for comma separated value, is basically a spreadsheet file, and that's the format most likely that your mailing provider would have. And now all we have to do is hit search, and the database, the server will generate this CSV file, City of Boulder Voters Database, and I can save that off, and then, I already had one there. And then I can bring that file up in a spreadsheet to verify that yes, there should be 17,000 rows in that spreadsheet. Okay, so that's how, again, we can use the voter database to generate a mailing list. To recap, you define the search criteria that you want to define the voters you want to reach out to. Under order by display, we have the fields we're going to show, and then the fields we're going to make unique. We select CSV and then add a large count.